Hey guys, it's Saria. Welcome back to my channel. But today's video I'm really excited about because it's kind of a different set of ears. So these are Belle's Enchanted Christmas inspired ears. If you guys have seen the Christmas Beauty and the Beast movie, it's called Belle's Enchanted Christmas. It is adorable. It has a very sweet message. It kind of falls in between the story of Beauty and the Beast. So like she's already at the castle with Beast, but the ending hasn't happened yet. I actually made these for my friend Heather, the Disney housewife, in a box swap that we were both a part of where it was a themed box swap. So like we had to pick a specific theme for the entire box, and I chose Belle's Enchanted Christmas because that is one of Heather's favorite Christmas movies and it was a theme of her preference. I think these ears came out beautiful. They're relatively simple to make. I definitely think these are pretty beginner friendly if you haven't made that many sets, or maybe you've never made a set ever. If you guys are nervous though, I do have like 60 something DIY ear tutorials on my channel, so there's tons of different methods and ways that I've done throughout the years. Sometimes just watching a bunch of different ways will give you an idea of which one will work best for you and what materials you maybe already have on hand. Without any more chit chat, let's jump into this tutorial. So for the main fabric of the ears, I'm going to be using this kind of burgundy, dark, deep red, I guess. It really is like a burgundy. And it's like a faux velvet. I believe I picked this up at Hobby Lobby in their kind of velvet section. And I'm going to be using the largest template that I have, which is the ear cutting line template. I'll be tracing this onto the back of the fabric 4 times and then cutting those out on my cutting mat. I am kind of overlining and not really worrying about being perfect on this particular fabric because it has some stretch to it. So it's kind of hard to exactly trace on the back. So you can see how messy the tracings are. You just want to, make sure you've got a little extra to work with. And then I went ahead and cut all 4 of those out using my rotary blade, but obviously you can totally use fabric scissors or regular scissors, whatever will get through the fabric. Next, using that same ear cutting template, I'm going to be using this brown felt as a filler, and the reason I'm using brown is because it's the closest color I had to that burgundy color. This one I'm doing a much better job tracing, and I will be tracing 4 of these and then cutting these out as well. Next, I'm going to be using the smallest template linked down below for you guys and some cardboard, and I'm going to be tracing 4 of the foam and batting template onto this cardboard and then cutting those out using an X-Acto knife on top of this little cutting mat. Next, we're going to start assembling the ears, so putting the cardboard piece on top of the felt piece first. I'm going to do a line of hot glue at the top and then fold over the felt and tap it down into the glue. And then I will continue all the way around the sides, doing little bits at a time and just folding over the felt and tapping it down into the glue. I normally like to do the bottom portion of the felt last, but you can also honestly leave it open and then close it up when we get to the next layer. It just kind of depends what you're able to do. Also, this little finger cover that I'm wearing is a silicone finger cover from Dollar Tree, and it works extremely well to protect my fingers from the hot glue. It's just sometimes I'm so stubborn I refuse to use it because I just rather would have burns on my fingers apparently. After finishing the felt layer, I'm going to lay it down onto my fabric and do the exact same steps. I'm going to do lines of hot glue and then fold my fabric over onto the ear and tap it down into the glue. Make sure that your fabric is facing right side out. So you want to make sure that the soft velvety side of it is what is on the outside of the ear, not on the inside touching the felt. After you've done all the sides, then go ahead and take your scissors and snip your fabric in the middle. This will just help to avoid any type of weird puckering or bubbles in your fabric. And then use your hot glue gun to add some hot glue and then fold your fabric over and tap it down. And then your ear is all nice and closed up. And then you're going to create a second one of those and then glue them together. So this is why we cut out 4, because you obviously need to create these in halves. And then you're going to glue these 2 together to create one whole ear. When you are pressing this down and letting the glue fully set and dry, you will feel that the ear is very warm because it's hot glue. Once the glue has totally cooled off, then you know that it's got a nice adhesion and
Is adhesion a word? I said it and I questioned it immediately. Anyway, we're going to move on to trim. So I'm going to be using this gold trim that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to be adding this to the rim of the ear. So using a thin line of hot glue, I'm just going to tap down my trim into the hot glue very gently with my finger and work my way all the way around the ear until I'm to the other side. And once I get to the very end, then I will cut off any excess. And just a tip, if you're worried about your trim fraying, then you can take a lighter and just very gently, I don't know if that's the right word, just very carefully burn the edges to make sure that it doesn't fray. It will seal the edges on any ribbon or trim. I ended up just gluing down the edge of mine because I had just enough excess to do that. So next we're going to be making kind of the middle insert section that matches her dress. So I'm going to be using this gold kind of yellowy silky fabric that I have. And I picked up this little pack of flowers from Walmart as well, but honestly I only need 2 of them. So I'm just going to be using 2 of the red ones. Why do I have 3 laid out? I only use 2. But first we need to make the little insert panel. So you're going to want to cut a triangle out of your fabric. So I folded my fabric in half and then cut a triangle that could be unfolded and then trimmed down. So I wanted to make sure that it was symmetrical, and folding it in half was the best way I could think to do that. I'm so sorry that I'm getting out of frame right now. But I'm just trimming down the triangle to get it to a sizing that I like on the ear when it's centered on the ear. So unfortunately I did get out of frame on this portion, but it's very simple. I just hot glued the triangle to the center of the ear. So I am just using dots of hot glue on the corners of that triangle and then tapping it down onto the ear. You can see little pieces of it here. I'm so sorry, you guys. I filmed this video 2 years ago and I don't want to not use it. So glue the triangle down. Then you're going to take that same gold trim that we used on the edge of the ear, and you're going to use this on the edges of the triangle. So you're just using this to give yourself a nice edge, and it'll look nice and pretty when you're done. This last portion of the trim you'll be able to see me glue in just a second because I'm going to move the ear back in frame, thank goodness. And I'm just going to do a thin line of hot glue there and take my trim and tap it down into the glue. I did pre-measure my trim and cut it into smaller pieces because it was so much easier to work with. And as you can see as well, I did the sides first and then I went and did the very top layer last. That little rose I am just gluing to the center of the triangle, and now we have one ear that looks like the top of her dress. And next we're going to work on the other side using a matching ribbon. This is a 2-inch burgundy satin ribbon, and I'm cutting 2 small strips of it because I want to create, I don't know what you would call this, but it's like the draping effect of her skirt. So again, I'm using that trick of the lighter on the edge of the ribbon to seal the edges so that they don't fray. And then I'm going to be pinching these and gluing them in place so that I can create a faux draping effect on the other side. I got really close so that you guys can see how I'm pinching this together, but I want to create kind of like a bubble in the ribbon to give it some dimension. So I'm pinching and gluing the top portion and then allowing that to dry before actually attaching it to the ear. Now obviously I want 2 of these because I'm going to be draping them from the center of the ear, so I created this second one before attaching it as well. Now that I have 2 of them, I'm going to actually pin these in place to make sure that they don't wiggle or move around on me, because I want to make sure that they are exactly where I have them right now. And I just poked a sewing pin through the ear. And then while that's holding it, I'm going to actually glue down the other edges first. So you can see here, I'm just kind of trimming the excess off and trying to get it as close to the ear measurement as I can. Something else that I think would have helped this is if I hadn't added the gold trim around the edge of the ear yet, I would have been able to glue this ribbon on the inside of the ear before closing them up, and then you wouldn't have to worry so much about your edges. I think it would have given it a really nice finished look, but again, I made these 2 years ago. I'm so much more experienced now. So here you can see I've just glued down those edges, and I did cut them to kind of mirror the curve of the ear in order to create that little bubble we talked about. So you can see here, I'm just going to add a very small dot of hot glue and tack that edge down, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I am really trying to do this in a clean way because I didn't want a bunch of hot glue mess, but I love the draping effect that this created. I think it came out really, really pretty. And then I'll go ahead and glue the center of the draping effect down. Once that glue is all dry, I can go in and add in that little rose at the top. It feels so silly that I had to buy a whole pack of these for 2 little roses, but they were so necessary. I don't think they would have looked right without them. And that is the second side. So I didn't like how this was bubbling up, and I added just a smidge more hot glue, but I wish I had been more careful because I did make a little tiny bit of a mess there. And that time I was a little bit more careful. So now that both ears are done, we're going to go ahead and attach these to the headband. I personally don't cover my headbands 90% of the time. I just don't think it's necessary with most designs because a black headband is going to mostly match my hair color. So it doesn't bother me. Anyway, to glue the ears down, I am using my ear spacing template. I have this template linked down below for you guys as well. And I'm just adding some hot glue to the bottom of the ear and then firmly pressing it down onto the headband. I used the template to make sure that I have these in the right place before gluing them down. You can use a marker to mark on the headband exactly where you want them to end up. I've just made so many pairs of ears, I can move pretty quickly through this part of the process. Again, with the second ear, adding some hot glue to the bottom and then really firmly pressing it down onto the headband. And same thing, just making sure to hold it very, very tight until that glue has fully dried. To make the bow, I decided to do this out of the same ribbon that we used earlier, and I cut 2 strips of the exact same length. I believe these strips are 6 inches in length, and then I'm just going to be gluing them shut into rings. So you can see here I'm just adding 3 small dots of hot glue and then pinching my ribbon together to close them into these 2 little rings. After they are glued, then I'm going to pinch them or accordion fold them into a bow shape, but I am going to stack them so that the bow is a little bit larger. After stacking them, I'm pressing them together. Again, I'm so sorry that I got out of frame for this, but I'm just gluing the 2 little ribbons together and using that same gold trim that we used earlier to wrap around the center of them. I do have quite a few bow tutorials, and actually I made one entire video of 7 different ways to make a bow for Mickey ears specifically, so I will link that video in case this particular version is not your favorite, or if me being out of frame just made it too difficult to understand. So again, I am really sorry, you guys, but I'm hoping that this tutorial is still helpful. So after making the bow, then I'm just going to glue it down to the center of my headband, and that is the final step in making these ears. Except that it's totally not, and I did need a 3rd red rose. I totally forgot that I put one in the center of the bow. So you will need 3, not 2. But after gluing that little rose down in the center, then we are complete with this ear tutorial.